deeper than most other games these days. But I also agree with you that what I hope to rekindle, here with my next works, is instead of just the friendly, neutral, or aggressive, is to really go back to what you've described, which is that there are often positive ideals which still conflict with each other. And so it's not enough just to want to do good. There really are times where doing good still have consequences that will appear to show favoritism or bias towards one particular ideal over another particular ideal.
And why do you think they restrict their games to only these two choices? They are kind of limiting themselves. Also, why do you think that no other company is exploring about these different possibilities?
Here's why I think most games are still so shallow. If you look at the slow evolution of quality in games, the quality improvement is also usually facilitated by the technological improvement. I mean, the games we play today clearly could never have been created on an Apple II. And if you look at the way the history has evolved, there were very simple games in the early days that were running around in a maze and shooting each other. And if you look at the games that are very popular today, many of them are still running around in a maze and shooting each other. But it's interesting to watch how I believe it evolves. For example, when I first saw a game, it was called Escape, and it was running around in a maze on an Apple II. And but I wanted to make a similar. I liked the visuals of running around in a maze, but I wanted you to be able to do more things: talk to characters, open chests, open secret doors, and have a deeper experience while running around in a maze. So my games became more popular because they were deeper. But then, for example, a technological major change will occur. Like one of them was when the CD-ROM first came out. When a CD-ROM first came out, suddenly you could put a lot of graphics into a game. And so the walls of the dungeons or the walls of the maze that you would run around in became really beautiful. And so gameplay simplified back to just running around in a maze because the maze was really beautiful. But then to compete with that game, the game got deeper and deeper and deeper, and my games become more popular again. Until, say, for example, 3D graphics hardware. And when 3D graphics hardware comes out, suddenly running around in a maze is even more beautiful. And now you can have smoke and lighting and shadows and the sound effects are even more improved about that same time. So the games become very simple again. And then after they're simple, to compete with the simple games, they get deeper and deeper and deeper. My games become more popular. Then it resets when the internet comes out, because now you can play with other real people, not just NPCs to run around and fight. Then you get the idea here. So each of the major hardware improvements simplifies gameplay again. And so there's only a few of us that focus on deeper because it's cyclic. Games go from every hardware iteration, they become simple, and then they slowly become deeper.
All this talking about running around in the maze and shooting each other has reminded me of the game Call of Duty. And it was saying that karma systems in role-playing games is maybe not reaching its full potential, while in non-role-playing games it's simply not existent. So is that hard to implement? Do you think a morality system would work on a no role-playing game?
Well, of course, in computers anything is possible. The question is what will be the best path to, from a development standpoint, to create the greatest success. And in my mind, the greatest success has demonstrated to be each new hardware cycle. All that is required to create success is a very simple game with great new visuals. And only after that do games get deeper for a period of time until the new hardware comes out, in which case you focus only on great new audio visuals. So it's a cycle that repeats every 5 years or so.
Well, I started saying that I think that one of the keys that made the Ultima games feel so realistic was the virtue system. The second key concept that fascinated me was the environment, the walls, possibilities, and especially the crafting. When I played Ultima Online, my character was a blacksmith. I was not out there killing dragons with my huge magical powers. I'd much rather took orders from my guild masters and tried to buy cheap materials, sell expensive weapons and armors, something that is completely unrelated to fighting or to combat. But it was incredibly fun, and I was wondering, how is that even possible?
Well, this I think is good news for me, because what we are doing here is developing games in the spirit you have just described. For example, I agree with you that Ultima Online is still very different than any other massively multiplayer game. Almost every other massively multiplayer game, your character, first and foremost, is a combatant. And you may be able to do some other activities. You may be able to do some crafting or make some potions, but everyone is a combatant. In Ultima Online, as your character was, there are many characters who are almost never a combatant. They lived entire lives in other roles as farmers, shop tenders, blacksmiths, miners, and pet tamers, these other things you've mentioned. What I find interesting about that is look at the new, I believe there have been 3 grand